Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the IS-2 Shielded. It's a Tier 7 Soviet heavy tank located on the north spawn of Pearl River under the command of ProvoBob of 1AR. Game on! Well, this is a premium tank and it's actually armed with a 122mm main gun capable of 390 alpha, 175mm pen with standard ammo, and with the premium rounds 217mm pen. It was brought out as a reward tank, I seem to recall, when it was brought onto the screen, but the real thing was built in 1944 and was a modification of an IS tank. Yes, the IS-2 had a different shape, but basically it's the same sort of turret, but it was a lot tougher than the standard IS. And the shielded version, well, that was actually to stop the heat rounds from damaging it, because the Germans tend to throw the highest caliber rounds at it, especially when they saw the muzzle brake at the end of the barrel. Because, of course, they considered that any tank that had a muzzle brake was probably a heavy caliber, a 122, and therefore, obviously, they had to hit it hard. You can see the tank behind him has actually got no muzzle brake, and that's an IS, and he's got the 100mm gun, which means he's not so much of a threat to the Germans, although that was a heavy caliber weapon compared to the 88s. It wasn't as bad as the 122, and he's come across an opponent, which turns out to be, I think it's that chopper? Yeah, look at that, the Arty went straight for him. Okay, so he's reloaded. It does take a little while to reload, but look at the damage it did. 417, a high roll, and he's had 2 pens so far, and he's going for another one. Oh, yep, and that one didn't go through, so he didn't get that one in. It was blocked, but it's only got 5 degrees of gun depression, so it's not so great when it comes to, 6 degrees gun depression. So it's not so great on ridge lines, but it certainly can do a lot of damage to enemy tanks. He just needs to steady it and make sure that the angle does penetrate. Now he's probably going to have a go at that AT-15A, because it definitely penned the side of it, and he does. Now many more rounds like that, and that guy is going to feel it. And the chopper comes up now, and the chopper can't shoot at that angle, but he does have another penetration there, a low roll. But he did take a big hit from the chopper. He can't afford to do that again because he's now down to only 229. So he takes the chopper out. Now the next enemy is that AT-15, but he'll have a lot of ease with that one, punching through the sides, not through the front. Now it didn't work there. Took a 17-pounder round in return. He's going to let the KV-2 do the worst. And all he gets is 69 hit points. So that wasn't very good. He's changing angle, approaching it from a different way. Okay, the AT-15 is now in trouble. And we've come around the other side to get him from that angle. He's probably going to notice that. But we've got him in the side. And there's another penetration. He's a one-shot now. The KV-2 had his wicked way, but he didn't get the kill. But this shell will definitely do the business if he punches it through. He's only got to find 47 hit points. Oh, and he didn't do it! And he managed to bounce that round from the 17-pounder. Now go for the cupola. Oh, he didn't even need to. The KV-2 got it right the next time. Okay, so we're 2 up on the enemy. He's got 1 kill so far, the chopper. And now he's going for the enemy. He's going to go straight to the enemy cap area. Yeah, you can see that he did manage to block a few shots, but notice that the enemy actually went for the lower plate most of the time and got 1 shot into the turret. You can see that the enemy did fire the APCR with the 17-pounder gun. Needed the extra penetration. There's only 6 enemies remaining now, most of them over on the west side of the map. There is an enemy behind him. There's the enemy Arty making his run for it. And he did get a hit for 323, and the GW Panther goes down. There is an enemy over there. He could try and go back through the village and get to the enemy that way. At least he'll be close to the enemy at the end, looking out from the village. But instead he's actually headed to the cap area. The Skoda is actually nearby. Once he goes into the cap, the Skoda will try and pop out. But he's only got a 75mm gun, which is going to be, well, difficult for him to penetrate unless he uses premium rounds. And the Skoda's gone down, so now he's sitting in the cap praying that the enemy is not going to try and come back. And in fact, there's one of the enemy, the SU-152, and they are capping, or they were capping for a brief moment at the other end. You notice our Crusader relocated. He went down to the heavy alley. And it looks like the AC-4 Experimental knows that he's down there. He probably received hits. In fact, he's just gone down the SU-152 to the Challenger. So it looks like we might be capping out on this game, which is a pity because he does have 74 hit points left. I suppose he's guaranteeing victory. Oh, look at that. The SU-152 went down, and we've managed to lose our T-3485M. The only enemy that could come back might be the T-3485, but we've capped out, and that's the end of the game. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was a second-class tanker for ProvoBob in the IS-2 Shielded. In fact, it's the first time he's had a second-class tanker in this tank, because it's got the scrolls underneath, and you only get that the first time. He also got a sharpshooter for getting 10 or more consecutive shots on the enemy, a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points for his own vehicle, and he also got a Spartan medal because he bounced one of the shells from the AT-15A when he had less than 10% of his hit points left, and so he picked up the Spartan medal. 3,830 was the win rate, which is super unicum, but not particularly great, and he possibly could have got that Skoda instead of his teammate getting it. Anyway, let's have a look at team score. Well, we can see he actually did pick up the highest damage in that game. He didn't get the high caliber because it wasn't 20% of the enemy hit pool. He picked up 2,514 hit points of damage, mostly down to the chopper and the AT-15A. The second highest damage in the game turned out to be the AMX 12-ton, who got 1,833. Third highest was the T-3485M on his team, 1,505. When it came to kills, we can see the top scorer is the Budgie on our team, 3 kills. AC-4 Experimental on the enemy team got 3 kills. And 2 kills went to the T-3485M, the M4A376 Wet, the KV-2, and on the enemy team, the SU-152. And we can see that ProvoBob only got the 1 kill, the chopper. But when it came to base XP, we can see that it is ProvoBob again, 910 for that. So he's got the top in 2 columns. And 906 went to the M4A3 and 770 went to the T37. He fired 10 rounds, got 10 direct hits, 7 penetrations. So he was accurate, but he wasn't getting pen with the shots. 2,514 hit points of damage, of which 323 were at more than 300 meters. That was a shot on the GW Panther. He got 8 hits received, 6 of those penetrated. Yeah, the guy was going for the lower plate. And 2 non-penetrations, 230 hit points of damage blocked by armor. 2 enemy vehicles spotted, 3 enemy vehicles damaged, 1 killed, and he got 82 hit points of damage assistance and 65 capture points while he was sitting in the cap. On a free player count, he actually made a loss of 7,958 credits and 2,396 experience points after that game as well. I guess if ProvoBob practices with this one, I think he might find it's actually quite a good tank. It is only tier 7, so it's not exactly going to see a lot of... it might even see some tier 6 games where it will really dominate. But yes, it's actually a premium tank. You can see here IS-2 shielded. So, yes, nice one, Bob, but keep practicing on this one. I think you will end up with games where you get loads and loads of medals. This actually, the tank itself, they built 3,854 of them in all models. But this one, you can tell from the muzzle brake that it's got the 122. And I didn't mention the fact that the Soviets used to put buckets and suspend buckets from the end of the barrel of most of their tanks, even if it only had the 85mm or the 100mm gun. Because the moment the Germans saw something big at the end of the barrel, they thought it was a 122 and they'd run away from it. They didn't want to engage the 122s because they nearly always came off worse. The Soviets, though, they were pretty poor with their guns on the 122. They didn't get the first hit in, but they normally got the last hit in, because if you got one good shot with the 122, it would normally end the German tank. So that would be the end of the story. And that's why the Germans ran away, because it was easier to run away than it was to engage a tank, which you could come off worse to in the end and get killed. Yeah, so you can see why they built this tank, and it was quite robust, produced between 1943 and 1945. It had a reasonably good range of 240 miles on the road, 180 cross country. It was the 12-cylinder V2 diesel, which was the one they made a lot of. Actually quite a good tank, and it design history actually comes from the KVs. So the KV-85, the IS-85, the IS-100, the IS-122. Then we got to the IS-2, and then we got to the IS-2M. So it's actually got a lineage of good tanks that it actually came down. And they built a lot of this one because it worked. It actually did work. It had the desired effect. It made the Germans run away rather than confront it. And if they did confront it and get shots on the target, with that 122, it would normally end the argument straight away. So there you go, the IS-2 shielded. Hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like, and thank you for watching.